So, yeah.
Powered by Riverside.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 16 of On the Back Hash.
16.
16?
Dang.
16. Yeah.
6.
We can drive.
1, 6.
Not kept up with none of these.
Nope, no. Yeah, we can drive. And now that we got like
Will,
3 different shows.
Will, once it hit 10, he kind of got a blur.
Yeah.
Listen, for real.
But,
Started to mush.
yeah. But once again, welcome everybody to On the Back Hash, where we talk all things pageantry arts. As always, we're joined by Chris, William, Zach, and today we have a special guest, good friend of all of ours, Miss Allie Moore.
Yeah.
How you doing tonight, Allie?
I'm doing all right.
Cool. So we've been trying to get some folks that have had some DCI experience and talk to them about theirs, because everybody's experience is unique. I never got to do it, but from the folks that I talked to, everybody had a little different experience going along with it. So we'll kind of get to know Allie and talk about her experience, and then who knows what topics we'll get into as the program goes along. So I will take it to our expert interviewer, Mr. Zach Watts, and
All
let
right.
you do what you do.
All right. So, Allie, our first question is, when and where did you march DCI?
Well, I marched Music City 2012 and 2013, and then I went to Spirit of Atlanta from 2014 until I aged out in 2015.
So, our next question is, what was your very first DCI experience?
My first ever DCI experience, and this is probably going to age me a little, but it
You're not
was
younger than all of us.
You're not going to beat any of us.
I was like, what are you talking about?
Beat anybody.
finals on PBS on
The
TV.
good old days.
Yeah.
And I believe it was 2005 whenever Phantom Regiment did Rhapsody. That was my first ever show that I saw. And then the first time that I saw a live show was in 2007, and it was also Phantom Regiment on air.
Okay.
So that kind of plays into our next question, which was, what made you want to march drum corps?
Well, I mean, the first thing would just be that I became obsessed with color guard. And I knew that eventually I wanted to teach, and I wanted to, one, be able to say that I'd had the experience of marching a drum corps, just gaining that extra knowledge to be able to bring home and continue to use as an educator. But I initially never wanted to march color guard. That kind of became a new thing later on. The first time that I had seen a drum corps show, I had set in my mind that I wanted to march mellophone for Phantom Regiment. That obviously did not become a thing. Once I kind of discovered color guard and got into winter guard in my high school, that really set it in stone for me that I wanted to go on to march after I graduated high school.
Yeah,
That's what's up.
it's a cool story.
Did Seth burn his pie? Is he? Yeah, Seth just burned his
No.
pie. Oh, no.
He is out for the pie.
Pie.
Burn his paw.
Burnt
Pie. His pie.
Oh, I thought you said his paw.
Oh, man.
Seth just pie.
All right,
no.
so you said that Phantom was the first corps that you ever saw. So next question is, why did you choose to go to Music City and Spirit?
Well, I went to Music City first because it was local-ish. It was closest to me. I had auditioned elsewhere before I went to Music City, and that was an experience that I was not prepared for at all. I learned pretty quickly what was going to be expected of me, what I needed to kind of work on before I tried to go for it again. And then I had a friend who had already marched a year with Music City, and she kind of just said, hey, why don't you go with me this weekend and try out here? And I went, auditioned, had a great time, met a lot of great people, and it just felt like home when I got there. And I had never previously considered marching there before, but once I had that experience, I was like, okay, this is the right place for me to be. And then it was kind of the same story with Spirit. I knew that I wanted to march a world-class corps, and it was never really about like a ring or a medal or anything like that for me, but I just wanted that elevated experience, and it was, again, another place that was close. So that
I got a
was
question.
the next.
About that. So, like, Music City was open class whenever you marched with them, correct? And so, what is there like a huge difference between, as far as like what you see in an open class versus a world class, as far as like if a student's like watching this and they're wanting to do color guard, what are some of the differences like between an open class and world class, or is there really any difference when it comes to like what you need to know and knowledge wise for color guard?
There are, at least when I marched, there were some differences, but they're small. So with an open class corps, I feel like you're going to see more people auditioning who have maybe never marched before with the programs they were already a part of. They might be trying something new. You might see people a little, I guess, fresher to the activity than you would with a world-class audition. And then open class corps, at least when I marched, had shorter touring time as well. Mm-hmm. So that was another difference. But in terms of the work put in, the things that you're doing on the field, in my opinion, it's all the same.
So go ahead, Will.
So that makes, I was going to say, so that makes me wonder, it's not quite, well, I was going to say it's kind of controversial kind of topic, but most of the times you hear a lot of corps will say, hey, go march here before you march us to get experience. Like for anybody that is, like Chris said, if anybody's listening or wanting to some information, do you think it helped your chances to get into Spirit because you already have marched Music City?
For sure. Yes. Because even having marched there, I still was able to gain knowledge and skill that I didn't have just coming straight out of my high school program. Mm-hmm. And I think that prepared me a lot more for more advanced things that we would be asked to do in a world-class audition. So I would say for sure it was helpful.
Because I know a lot of everybody's experience is different, but I know on a previous podcast we talked about setting yourself up with different options, like let's say hypothetically Spirit was your number one corps you wanted to go to, but you didn't make it. So what we talked about was always having a plan B or a plan C in case you don't make the group that you actually want to make. So in the beginning, did you actually have a plan B or C if you didn't make Music City in the beginning?
My plan B or C would have been audition anywhere that I can get in. Because I really just wanted to march. And where I was marching wasn't really a huge deal to me right out of the gate. My brain just completely cut out. But yeah, I would say I, first of all, just wanted to get in. And so my thought process was go audition, leave with a contract. And had that not worked out, I would have just kept sending in tapes, going to camps until somebody was like, here you go, we want to see you back.
Yeah, that's kind of thing I think we were talking about on that one podcast before is allowing yourself more opportunities in case the number one spot you want does not offer you a contract. You know, to remind kids that, or anybody that's listening, to not give up just because your favorite corps or whoever you audition for the first time does not accept you. You know, because you're going to find, or you're going to get that experience no matter where you go. But sometimes in the end, it's about getting your foot in the door.
Because you had said that you had auditioned somewhere prior to going to Music City, Right. And you said it was more than you were expecting.
Yes.
Can you kind of talk about the
Yes.
we already know the brass side of the audition process from like camps and things like that. So, how does the guard side of those auditions and camps work? Like, is there specific repertoire that you're supposed to know, or specific tosses you're supposed to know, and things like that before you come? Is there like a packet that you have to get, like for brass?
No, not really. You kind of learn everything once you get there. There's not much to there's not much information you're given beforehand to kind of prepare. You get to wherever the audition site is, and you usually spend a little while in technique block on either movement or whatever equipment you're spinning, be it flag, rifle, saber. And then you'll learn a short combination of choreography for dance. Everyone learns flag, and then they'll break off and have weapons learn their little thing. And then they kind of have everyone go in small groups and just perform what you've learned. And that's really it.
That makes sense.
I got a question. I'm sorry. I just because color guard world just fascinates me because I'm not in it a whole lot. But you talk about flag block and then like dance block. I guess like how balanced does it need to be? Like because when I think about DCI, the big difference I see is that underneath the flag work is usually what separates a lot of the groups from one another when it comes to guard. How much dance experience do you think you need to have or understand going into color guard at that kind of level?
Well, I think, and I say this as someone who had little to no dance experience when I was auditioning. I think it really depends on how quickly you're able to pick up new things and retain that information, more so than how much experience you've had prior.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's always been weird. I mean, I've been fascinated by that because, like,
I feel like
I'm a visual guy, but like I can't do half the crap that color guard do.
I feel like, Allie, you correct me if I'm wrong on this. I feel like it's a lot easier to teach someone flag work than it would be to teach them to dance properly. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. And I kind of see what you're saying because dance is really the base of everything that you're doing when it comes to color guard. So, like, you might not be dancing per se when you're spinning a flag, saber, rifle, but you're still going to have body movement that's accompanying that piece of equipment. And so that's really the thing that helps everything else move along. So to anyone who is thinking about marching now, would I recommend maybe taking a dance class or two if you don't have that experience prior? Yes, I would definitely say that it would be helpful, but I don't think that it's something that would necessarily make or break your audition just because they're going to be looking for how quickly you pick up and retain, more so than perfection and experience.
That's probably one reason why we see in a lot of high school groups, everything kind of trickles down from DCI and from WGI. So now you see high school groups that will hire somebody specifically for choreo or for dance, just to teach dance. And that dance is not only being taught to the color guard, but like it's for the whole band.
Yeah.
Right.
The way that the game is going down.
More ballet terminology in the last 4 years than I've ever heard of in my life.
I think I mentioned in one episode that I mentioned her a lot because she's our dance coach. She teaches right beside me, and she's a dance team sponsor at our school. And I talk about all the stuff that we know. She's like, my kids don't even know the stuff that you're talking about right now. Like I was talking about, we have a dégagé and we do a rond de jambe into a fourth plie. She's like, what? How do you guys know all this? Like, well, it's part of the game now, man. It's what you gotta do,
Yeah, it's it's so funny because when we teach our kids all the foot positions and the basics, plies and coupes and rondagens and all that good stuff. One of the things that I always have to remind them is you can't look like a kid from the middle of Kentucky when you're doing this. You got to look like a kid who's going to Juilliard. Like, you have to have that presence about you, because we can't look like a bunch of hicks from blank county, trying to lead dance block and play our instruments at the same time. You have to have that, you have to put on a persona, so to speak. And yeah, it's always interesting to see their coordination improve throughout the year, some of them. But yeah, that the whole dance thing is, I mean, we have a person that does choreo for us and sends it to us, and then we teach it to the kids. And he's got a guard background too, so it really makes a big difference.
It does. And I do think that's super important for everyone to learn when it comes to like performing arts, marching band, even your indoor programs, just because if they do audition for somewhere else later on, be it drum corps, winter guard, drumline, whatever, all of those activities now are so much more physically demanding than I think they have been in years past, and especially when I marched. And so a lot of things are more movement based in terms of dance technique than they ever have been, and having that knowledge under their belt will be really helpful.
Yes. And percussion, indoor percussion has really gotten heavy with it. Wait, like especially your world class, you may not see it too much or too heavy in your A's and bottom opens, but in world class, it is almost like a thing, a standard, like I have to. Like they have specific blocks and stuff for that. Like I know even like people like Chino Hills and Post Percussion, they have their own person that they got. It's outrageous that the body now, what your body work has to look like as a drummer. People are like, well, you're just a drum holding a drum. Man, it is far beyond holding the drum now. You can't just put the drum on your harness anymore.
Yeah, the bar has definitely been raised in terms of simultaneous responsibilities, things that we hear all the time on judges' tapes and stuff.
Amen.
A lot more is expected of all members now, just to put on that full production.
Yep.
All right. Well, our next question in our interview process, I guess. So what other corps were you interested in? We know that you ended up marching with Music City and Spirit. Were there any other corps that you were interested in auditioning for, or that you thought, man, I would really like to be a part of that someday if I could?
Oh, well, sure, yeah. I auditioned for the Blue Stars. That was my very first audition ever. I auditioned for Blue Coats. I auditioned for Blue Knights. Not intentionally picking all of the blue groups.
Well, there's like 5,000.
Yeah.
There's 5,000 of
No,
them,
I
so it's
swear.
okay. I mean, it's
Like,
kind of
if
hard not
blue's
to.
not your name, you're like beast.
Yeah.
They were all great experiences, though. If I could go back, I don't think I would really change anywhere that I marched personally, but just to have auditioned somewhere else just for funsies, another color guard that I think would be amazing to be a part of would definitely be Boston Crusaders. And especially in the last few years, they've really turned a corner in the best way possible in terms of their visual program, color guard program as a whole. They're just really doing some incredible stuff.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite groups to watch this past year was Boston's Guard. I mean, like Zach always says, if you can pull me away from the brass line, something's happening. And most of the time, I was watching the color guard for Boston, just because. I mean, that's where their GE was. I think for most of the time was right there. So I enjoyed their group a whole lot.
Do you have a favorite year or show that you marched or that you were a part of?
Well, in terms of watching shows, it's really impossible to narrow that down. I've watched a lot of drum corps at this point. One of my favorite shows that's had probably the most lasting impact on me that I can pull out anytime someone asks me that question would be Harmonic Journey 2003.
Okay.
And at my core, I am still very much a musician, and I just think that has some of the most beautiful music that a horn line has played some really beautiful visuals, and to see it revamped last year too was really cool. EMC Squared is something that I will always remember as being really innovative visually. There were things done in that show that I had never seen before until that point. And then going back to the Boston Crusaders thing too, I believe it was 2017 when they did Wicked Games, the witch show.
I think so.
I think that might have been the first year they made that big staffing change. And that was when things really started to get switched up in terms of their production overall. And it was just a really cool show. That color guard is one that I would have loved to be a part of.
So do you have a favorite memory from when you were on tour? Or is there anything that just kind of sticks out in your brain that you always think fondly of from the years you were living on a school bus?
Yeah, sure. Aside from
Living on the school bus.
aside from just the friends that I made it out of the activity with, and they're people that I still talk to every day. A lot of them were in my wedding, like lifelong friendships made through that activity. There are so many memories that I could pull from, but one of the most memorable experiences I think would be my rookie year with Music City. I think this might have been the first year they started doing encores at shows. I might be wrong about that, but one of the first years that they started asking chorus to play at the end, we had our first ever encore that year for Music City in Johnsonburg, Pennsylvania. And I was actually injured that day, so I was out of the show, and it was kind of one of those things like just sleep on the bus until we're done. I wasn't allowed to get off the bus or walk anywhere or do anything. It was just rest and recover. I vividly remember one of the guys that I marched with getting on the bus and just screaming, "Get up, get up, you're not missing the encore." And I was like, what do? I can't walk. So we were probably 2 miles away from the field, and he picked me up out of my seat and carried me all the way to the field and held me up so that I could be on the field with the corps for the encore. And while they were playing, which, first of all, the power in that horn line that year was just stupid. Like, they sounded incredible all the time. When they were playing, of course, we're all standing there like, oh, this is awesome. They sound so good. Whatever. The crowd is screaming. It starts pouring rain. And we're all just standing there kind of looking around like, is this really happening right now? It's one of those like mental picture moments that you just kind of save forever. And it may not be anything major like performing in finals or any big thing like that, but it's just something that I've always looked back on fondly. So that was a really special time.
Yeah, I think it's, you do talk about like the big moments, like, like from my high school career, the first time we made semifinals, or, different like bookmark moments. But then there are things that are maybe meaningless to other people, but they mean a lot to you, or you fondly remember those occasions. And you talk about it raining. I just remember one year in high school, as soon as I was about to as soon as we were announced on the field and our drum major saluted, it just opened up on us. I couldn't see past the bell of my horn. It was just heavy rain, and we played and marched our tails off that night. And we were just fired up by it for some reason. And our uniforms smelled horrible for the week after, and the band room smelled horrible. But we've been made T-shirts to remember that.
As soon as we're done.
Yeah, as soon as we were done.
As soon as you guys were done performing,
it's like
the rain stopped.
Yeah,
it was,
that makes perfect sense.
But yeah, that's just
literally.
Those are some of the funniest Judges tapes I've ever heard in my life. And they're like, well, I can't hear anything. I'm just going to kind of sit here and try to hear something. Like, and all you just hear is like the whole time. Like, it's one of my favorite tapes I've ever listened to.
And they were actual tapes back then, too.
Oh, I believe.
Oh, yeah, tapes. For all you out there.
There wasn't no competition suite back then.
No.
Oh, man. All right. So that kind of covers. Oh well, no, you answered that one. Your favorite DCI show? You said Harmonic Journey. That's all of the typical questions that we ask our guests. So we'll kind of open this up for any Q&A from anybody else, or if there's anything you want to share or ask us, Allie.
You alluded to you being a musician first. I know this about you, but like, how did you get into like band in general at first, and then how did you get into color guard specifically?
Well, my sister did marching band, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I had to do it because she did it, and I thought she was cool. So initially, that's what got me there. And then once I joined band and got to the point of being able to march, I fell in love with it. It was an outlet that I really needed that I don't think I could have gotten from any other activity. And it forced me to kind of come out of my shell a little bit and get comfortable with being uncomfortable and learning new things and putting myself out there in ways that I wasn't used to. So I really just loved band in general. And then when I first really started color guard, well, I was actually kind of forced to do it. We had a few shows, marching band shows, where the woodwinds would pick up a flag and spin for a song and then go back and pick up their instrument. And so that was my kind of introduction. It was just, you're this drill number, so you're going to spin a flag here, whether you like it or not. And then once I learned how to spin, I was like, okay, well now I want to watch some videos. I want to see what this looks like when other people do it. And just all of the color and the expression and the different ways that people could manipulate their equipment and the way that they were able to move, it was so different from marching an instrument. And I instantly just wanted to learn more and figure out how I can become better at this and keep doing it. And so from there, I ended up joining my high school winter guard. I ended up marching color guard, sort of, in a couple of other marching band shows, just because winter guard kids picked up equipment for a song and then went back to their instrument. And that's kind of history from there. I marched winter guard all through high school. Taught my middle school guard while I was still in high school. That was kind of my first venture into teaching. I just fell in love with it.
She heard the color guard clap at WGI, and it hurt her. That's what it was.
Oh, no.
I don't think it was that.
Half the people don't even know the origins of that clap.
I don't want to know. I don't think. Yeah.
It ain't. Every circuit though has their own little thing.
They got their own spin off of the original. What a lot of people don't know.
Here we go,
that
people.
I'll spill the beans here.
Turn it up
that
to
thing
15 right now.
Hold on. Wait. You got the soundboard ready?
Oh,
we need an official drop here.
Hold on, I gotta find it.
All right. We gotta pause for a second. This is very important.
Sorry, I'll do it again.
All right, now go ahead.
So, no, literally, I don't know if I'm going. Once again, I'm probably already canceled. Anyways, the real origins of that clap came from Christian County High School color guard.
Really?
Stephen Ferguson and all of them that were a part of that group at that school originated that clap, and it spread from SEGC through WGI.
So that recent?
You know that?
So is that recent?
No, that happened back in the 90s.
Well, but I mean, considering
man, so making me feel old. You're saying Seth's trying to say that's recent, and then you're like, "Nah, man, that's the '90s." Stop. And that hurts my soul.
Seth knows what I mean, but yeah. But everybody has taken their little spin from the original to try to make it their little piece of the pie or whatever. because we used to say it all the time. Everybody kept saying it because after a while, everybody was like, "Can we please cancel this?" I was like, because it got too remixed so many times or whatever, and everybody's just laughing about it. I was like, and a lot of us would just sit back. People don't even know where this came from.
I just think about, when we were in indoor and we had our color guard group too. Like we would go and watch them, or like help them with their floor and things like that. And sitting there in every group that comes in that gym, somebody starts it, and you're like, oh my God,
it only takes one.
Here we go.
It only takes one, and then it spreads like a virus. This little pod will do it, and another pod will do it, and the top people up all the way in the rafters.
First graders in cadet class spinning popsicle sticks with ribbons on the end, and we're going to break out the clap for this. It's just like, gotta start them somewhere. Gotta start them somewhere.
They're hooked.
Listen,
circuit claps, and then you also have the 10 solid minutes of airgrams.
Oh my God.
Dear Susie, spin your little heart out.
You got
love mom and dad.
Airgram from Mama Cece, from your third grandma. Third. How many grandmas?
It's your second cousin 5 times removes goldfish neighbor's dog. What? Spin your heart out.
Don't drop it or you're cut. Love, Coach.
Oh gosh.
Drop the first policy. So you never really marched color guard in marching band until drum corps?
Not full time.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool.
Huh.
See?
So was that a little bit of culture shock, being like that was your primary job in drum corps?
Yes. Bold print, underline. Yes.
Like what type of a job? Because I mean, playing a wind instrument, playing a percussion instrument, playing spinning is 3 different skill sets. So like, how did that transition go from I'm a wind player who spins sometimes to I'm spinning all the time?
It was a lot of faking it till I made it.
Listen.
Just kind of trying to throw myself in and hope for the best, and I tried to fly under the radar as much as possible. I did everything I could to make sure I was never the one that got called out from the box. So it was really just a lot of crossing my fingers at first until I got the hang of it and figured out, okay, this is what I'm going to do all the time. So now I have to focus on these things instead of playing my instrument, memorizing my music. So it was definitely an interesting transition at first, but I wasn't completely brand new to spinning, so it didn't take very long.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, how important was winter guard for you when it comes to those kind of things? Because I feel like, I mean, if your primary was a brass instrument, going into drum corps spinning is completely different. Like, how important was winter guard for you in those regards?
It was the thing that I looked forward to every year. So, of course, I loved marching band. I loved playing my instrument. I loved being a drum major, doing all the things that I did on the field. But I was really counting down the days until winter guard started every year. So it was definitely the top of the pyramid for me.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about indoor season. Like, I loved marching band and I loved playing my horn and stuff too. But by about the second week, probably first or second week of October, I was kind of over it and ready for indoor season to start, because it was something that I had to work at. And like, I mean, marching band was fine. Like, I knew my music up and down, backwards, forwards. I could march well. But in indoor, I had to work at it, and I was learning a new instrument. And it was a completely different group of people that I was surrounded by from outdoor season. I didn't get to hang out with my percussion people during marching band because I was always with the brass. But then when indoor season comes through, you get back with those people and the other people from the winds who come into indoor group as well.
You see, I kind of rode the same boat that you rode, Allie. I came from a brass as well. And a lot of people,
brass is not my primary instrument.
Oh, was I wrong? I'm sorry if I said something wrong.
I
bad.
had said that my dream was to march mellow for Phantom
That-
Regiment. I didn't know how to play mellow.
Okay, well then that's where I got confused. I apologize.
I
What was your
eventually
primary-
taught myself how to play, but I marched clarinet.
And
Clarinet, okay.
and
All
this
right.
episode is
Oh,
over.
clarinet.
No clarinets allowed.
No one wins. But yeah, that's pretty much still the same as what I went through. Like I originated from a wind player to a percussionist, but a lot of people don't know. Just like you jumping straight into drum corps, I jumped straight into Music and Mystique. That was the first group I marched with. The first group that I was supposed to march with wound up getting folded by the band director. So therefore, after that happened, a selected few of us got to go march Mystique, or we got to audition, or they saw us because they needed spots, and then we were able to fill the spots for Mystique. And that actually was my first year marching.
You know how
I feel like
insane
scarier transition too, because the demand for indoor programs is so much higher. I think just because you don't have to be in the elements. You don't have to tailor things to what if there's wind or what if there's rain. It's just crazy from the jump. So I can't imagine going straight from high school to
It's
that.
a culture shock. Like
That's what I was going to say. Is like that's insane. You go from our high school band director folds a group to, hey, I'm marching Mystique. Like, are you insane?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, so I was just like you, fake it till you make it. I mean, yeah, it's true, dude. I learned, but I don't brag, but I learn quick, and I feel like I learn quick. But just like I worked my tail off. You can ask anybody in that band room when we got the music. It's a culture shock. You're talking about bug eyes, everything. It's like we're about to play with these guys.
You want me to hold how many
so
mallets?
I get the music, right? And dude,
He was on the rack. When you on the rack?
No, I wasn't on rack. I was on marimba. I was on marimba and vibes. Back then, people actually switched instruments. So
I know.
I like came back and had my music. I'm like in the back percussion with the percussion stuff, talking to the percussion director there, like every day, trying to figure this stuff out because I just didn't want to be that one. Because one thing I never forget from high school, I pride myself on like, you only got to tell me once. So I'm like a small little kid on trumpet, and then there are two big, tall tenor players in the opening drill set of my freshman year, and they both come at me at a double angle, and I go straight up the middle through them. First of all, I'm like, who wrote this set? You see how small I am, and the percussion guy's like, you got the jazz run. What is a jazz run? I don't know what none of this stuff is. So I'm like terrified. But once they told me once, and I seen them coming with these huge drums on and everything, that was all it took. So I just kind of lived my life like that. Like, tell me once, it's getting fixed, or if I mess up once, it's fixed. So I don't know if you know Don Click. That's one person you don't want yelling at you. So I did everything in my power to not get yelled at Don Click when I marched that girl.
Well, that brings up another point too. Like, if you don't know your stuff, you're gonna die. Not literally, you could get hit. You could get run over.
All of that.
I say it all the time. We used to indoor all the time. Like, pain is the best teacher. You will only mess up once.
I promise you.
You get a drum to the side,
But
or
when
to
your
the
boys
back,
fell
to your head,
top base so
boy.
you do nothing but look at him. I said, well, bet you won't
Like
get
the whole crowd was like, ooh. Oh my God.
I only fell at practice.
But he got up.
It was okay. But that was your fault
Well, nothing we can do.
Nah, he felt.
because you give me
You
all these
fell at-
crazy
how
sets
was that
that I
my
can't
fault?
make. And I had a tumor in my leg
everybody got
trying to march bass drum. That ain't even my
Oh,
instrument.
here we go. With this
here we
tumor.
go. Here we go.
Well, it only took
He's like-
16 episodes to get to the tumor, but we
Yeah,
finally
I'm
got it.
surprised.
Well,
Yeah. Allie, I do got another
Tell me,
question
I
for you, real quick. One of the big things I think about is the performance of a guard member, of showing emotion on the field. Now we're starting to see that a lot more, especially in the DCI world, of emotion from players with they don't wear the traditional uniforms anymore, so they're more exposed. But like, what's something like, how do you convey emotions to someone that's literally like 300 feet away from you, like in Lucas Oil Stadium, like the emotion that you're trying to show for a certain movement or a certain part of the show?
Well, I mean, a lot of that, and as far as just projecting goes, comes down to your posture and your presence and how you're taught to project
Yep.
that upward, but
Yep.
also just to make sure that you personally are pulling the feelings that you're supposed to pull in whatever part of the show you're in. That usually comes from some kind of personal place that's not really ever the same from person to person, but everyone is using something inside of them to get that emotion out there to other people. And I think that kind of makes it, I don't want to say different from other sections, but it just brings like a personal feeling to that part of the activity, because you can, I mean, it can be a way to work through difficult emotions. It can be a way to really like express joy and have some kind of happy moment for that small moment in time. It's something that you don't experience the same way when you're playing and marching, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I feel like, that, for a brass player or whatever it could be, like it's marching, visuals, and playing. The emotion part, and you're trying to see a lot more, but like I think the playing part is the emotion part that we see a lot in guard. Like that's the
Right.
third element that you have a lot of. And I'm not being a Facebook creep, but you do share almost, I think, every year when it comes to DCI Finals Week, that photo of your last season marching, that expressive photo. That's like one of my favorite photos. Yeah, it's awesome. I just love it. I just that every time I think about, like, you talking about scary stuff, I remember that photo you share or whatever. It's really cool. Like, if you want to talk about emotion on the field, like you can feel that emotion through that photo. Which, I mean, I feel like a lot of guard members need to hear. The emotion is and projection is so important to conveying. The story. A lot of times, the story has to come from the guard. And using that expression is very, very important. So
it's a really unique experience too, to be able to just connect with what you're doing on that kind of personal, deeper level that everybody else watching in the stands may not see, but you know what it means to you.
Yeah, because I'll tell people all day. I think all of us, we want you to be clean. We want you to be, the top at visually, whatever. You want to check all your boxes. I think everybody wants whoever they're watching to that group is checking all their boxes. But at the end of the day, if you're not performing, I don't care. You're not gonna care, because it's like spending 50 to hundreds of dollars to go to a concert and watch your favorite singer sing monotone and do nothing. You're gonna be pissed.
Yeah.
You don't even get nothing when you get to, like, what do they call them? Red tables or round tables, where they'll do like acoustic versions of the. Yeah. You don't even get motionless stuff for that. Sometimes you get even more emotions and stuff like that from your favorite artist. So I tell people, I was like, yeah, go ahead, check all them boxes first. But at the end, if you're not performing, it's not gonna matter. It's not. You're gonna kill all of that.
We kind of been, and I think I've had this separate conversation with all of you at some point, but we've kind of talked about, I know here in our circuit in Kentucky right now, we've talked about show concepts and this, how it feels like this, everybody's playing it safe. And everybody's playing to the sheets, and emotion and showmanship is on the sheet. And I'm seeing groups winning and winning big, and I just watched the show and I'm just like, I feel like you took a math test.
It's boring.
And you just checked the box.
It's boring.
And I'm just like, and we're trying to get our groups to fight and to learn how to be expressive and to show everything that they're doing and have a show that's entertaining. And they're doing it, and it's hard, it's hard because that effort it's not always coming across on the sheets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some execution issues that need to be worked out, stuff. But you know, at the end of the day, it's just like these. I don't know what's going to happen on the score sheet, but I can tell you, you know, as we go forward, our show is going to be the one that everybody's talking about because they're engaging and they're energetic and they're, you know, the people in the audience really feel like, man, these kids are really giving everything that they got to do what they have to do.
Like you spin it back around to DCI, like the troopers this year, like that emotion, like that finals run, man, the emotion that they brought onto the field, you just felt it. Like you felt it, like in every regard. Like you could feel the greed of the oil. You can feel how it was tearing them down. You can feel the emotion from the cello player up top. Like just all this stuff, and that's what made that show, I think, great. Now, was it hitting all the boxes like Will was saying? No, but I mean, when you talk about emotional standpoint performance, like that core was it, man. That was it. So
and it's like that's probably why a lot of people talk about Troopers and Phantom and SEV at that finals performance, at least.
Yep.
Because of stuff like that. And it's hard. I tell people all the time, I was like, look, I get it. It's hard because first of all, the kids got to buy into the show because you can't fake it. People really do be thinking that they're fake, that they can fake emotions and stuff like that. You can't. It's very, 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 very hard. And if you do, you're amongst the elite top actors if you can pull that off. Because I'm telling you, it's like I guarantee you, give it a couple years. Think about it. Who's going to get talked about more, DD show this year or Blue Coast?
Blue Coast.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, that's easy.
But I mean, that's just, and it's not to down anybody because I give I give BD a lot of performances, especially the soloist. I feel like she put her heart into that solo every time she played it. But that's a big thing for me. That's especially when I'm judging and stuff like that. I mean, if you're not performing, I'm all over you.
And I think it kind of, you know, to go back to that picture, Chris, I'd be willing to bet, Allie, you knew every bit of that drill and choreography, like you didn't even have to think about it. So
yeah, because I was scared not to.
Yeah,
right.
But so, you know, if we have any students that are listening to that, in order to get to that point, you have to be comfortable with everything else that you're doing. You can't be thinking about, I want to get this right. I want to get this right. You have to know, I know this well enough that I'm going to get it right. You know, we talk to them all the time, especially with social media now. You never know when somebody's taking a picture of you, somebody's watching your group. And when they take that picture of you, what do you look like? Yeah. Like, are you representing the best that you could be doing for that performance, for that time, and for your group? You know, we were blessed this past indoor season. Our marimba player he represented the concert class in the program. You know, and I was just like, so I was like, I'm telling you, people are watching you, people are paying attention to you, and people pay money to watch you perform. You know, so you have to give them a show.
And I've given similar speeches back in the day. I was helping another friend, and I was teaching Ravenwood's Winter Guard, and I gave a similar speech that it just said to that color guard, telling them the same thing. I looked at all the girls down there and the guys, and I said, if you're sitting up here still worrying about your rifle work and all this other stuff, this is why we're getting killed in performance. I was like, you're too worried about this next flag phrase. You're too worried about these drill sets we just changed and all this other stuff. I was like, you got to know, once you know all of that stuff, there's literally, I tell every group that I ever teach, there's one thing you need to do when it's performance time. You got one job. Because kids will name all kinds of stuff. They'll say, we got to make sure techniques, we got to make sure we're looking at each other. I don't care about none of that. I was like, you need to perform. I don't need you to hope you get your music right. I need you to already know your music before we go.
Right. I think a lot of that too, especially with like your middle school kids, your high school kids, comes from I think there are some who just don't know how, to do that, and they need to be shown. But also, there are some kids who are not willing to let go because they're worried they're going to look dumb, or their parents are going to make fun of them, or this
I got
feels
all kinds of speeches for it. Cedric, no. Cedric, no. I eat him up for that. I got all kinds of speeches for exactly what you just said. We do a lot of exercises and stuff. I broke Barron County out of that. That's why we medaled the first year we came out at that school. So what you said is very, very true.
But once you shed that layer, it's there.
Man, I'm telling you.
Well, and it's like, and once you get that one person, it's got to be the right person. But once they do it and let loose, and everybody else sees it and feels it, then it just catches on. And you got to have somebody's got to be brave and step out and do it first.
I tell kids all the time, when you peak, it is the best and worst feeling you'll ever do. Because
Amen.
You're going to want to do it at the right time, and most of the time, it never happens at the right time. And peaking twice, it can be probably the most difficult thing ever. Because once you do it once, it is like a flood of emotions, and it's nothing fake about it. Nothing fake about it. One of our last years in indoor, I peaked in a warm-up when we were on a beach before the show. I peaked in the warm-up. I was hot. I said, I can't believe that just happened.
If I was on a beach too, I would do it.
This was back when indoor was cool and still moving around, and then nobody knew what to do. Until they finally was like, all right, get in one spot and stay there. But yeah, it's not the best time to peak on a beach before the actual show.
Allie, I got one more. I just want to ask you.
Throw it at me.
Favorite DCI show from this past year? I think you already kind of mentioned it, but do you have?
Well,
if you
I didn't watch a whole lot.
Okay.
I loved Blue Devils, and that's probably one of the few times you'll hear me say that.
Hey,
but I loved it.
Awesome,
I thought Madison Scouts were very unique this year. They did a show that I never would have expected from them, but it was really cool to watch. Live feed reaction. Of course, I love Boston. Blue Coats was really cool. Everyone just did, and I think 2020 may have unleashed something with people just not being afraid to really do some wild shit. But I just think the activity has changed in a way since then that it hasn't before, in terms of just what people are doing, the not just the level of production that's on the field, but the concepts are so much more unique. And I just think there have been some really cool things to watch the last year and the last couple of years.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, same.
When you got 10 groups popping 90 or something like that, was it?
Yeah.
Was it really 10?
Yeah,
Almost
the
10,
top
yeah.
10,
Yeah.
top 9.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It was no joke this year. No joke.
A buddy of mine said, if you didn't come out of the COVID year with a new skill or a new appreciation for life or anything like that, you wasted your life. You wasted their time. And I think a lot of the Drum Corps staff really took that and either use that time to develop some new faces or come up with new design schemes or whatever it was. But it really was a fantastic season from top to bottom this year. You have a season like this, you get worried for the next year because you're like, what can they do now? Like,
Yeah, they had 2 years to prepare for this one. Like, what do you do with like a lot shorter time? Yeah.
Well, I think part of it too is probably the fact that nobody was really certain, like, will we ever get to do this again? Will it ever be the same when we come back? And so I think the mentality for a lot of people, at least it seems like, it was probably, okay, we're coming back, so let's do it. Yeah. Let's really make this something special, because nobody was really sure how things would look when everything blew over.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm excited, man. Can't wait.
Only 10 more months. 10 more
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
It'll feel like 2, though.
I
It really
bet,
will.
By
right,
the time it
right.
comes, it sure will.
I was sitting here, I was like, I need to probably start writing the indoor shows.
Well, that's what I'm like, man, our first
Oh,
quarter of
this
the
time
year
you
is
really
almost
do.
over. It's crazy. We're almost
Yeah.
we're at
Yeah,
fall break
fall
for
break
us,
got here
and
quick.
we got like a month, and it's a month and a half, and it's Thanksgiving. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Flying by.
It flies by. Well, any parting words or advice that you want to give to inspiring color guard people or color guard teachers? Because we didn't really get to talk much about your teaching, but I'm sure we'll have you back on at some point.
It would take a whole other episode to get into that. Lots of things to say there.
So, but yeah,
Yes.
enjoy having you on. Give us that good color guard perspective.
For real.
Because none of us do it.
So we need to have you back
We can fake it.
when the WGI
It was
season
fun.
starts.
I am by no means claiming to be like a color guard expert in any way, but it's fun to just talk about. So happy to hang out.
Oh yeah, most
Yeah.
stuff. That's kind of the thing that I like about the interviews and the people that we're interviewing. It's like these are people who just had a dream or a passion to do this, and they're doing it. And the people that we've had on so far are at 3 different points in their lives. One of them is a teacher, one of them's a business person, and then you're teaching guard, and you got some other stuff in the background happening for you too. So, but it's just one of those. It's a lifelong activity if you want it. That sets up memories and taught you probably a lot of life lessons that you're using, still using today. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about our activity is while it is competitive and while it is about execution, you're setting up memories and getting experiences that you may not have been afforded.
And the
otherwise.
skills and
For
the
sure.
things that you learn are things that aren't going to stop after finals retreat. Those are things that you're going to have forever.
Right.
Not just necessarily like flag technique or anything like that. Like I'm talking about like social skills and relationship building and networking and all those things that come with our activity that a lot of people don't realize you pick up and they stay with you.
They really do.
And you continue to build on them too.
Yes.
Yep.
Use those experiences to, as Kara Lawson says, use those experiences to make hard easier or learn how to deal with hard better and not necessarily make life easier. So, most deaf. Well, I enjoyed it. Of course, I get to work with you all the time, so I knew I expected.
That is our common thread. I've worked with all of you at some point.
That's
so.
true.
Yeah. So, well, cool. Well, if you like what you heard, leave a like in a comment below. Let us know what you think. Like I said, we'll have a back on probably at least during WGR. We may talk BOA at some point too, and some stuff. But like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on all forms of social media: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Twitter.
Am I missing one? Twitter. Yeah, Twitter.
That other one.
Don't forget
Spotify. Yes, don't forget Twitter. Spotify and Anchor.fm. So all the places you can reach us, and we got some cool stuff going. We did some React videos, and Chris recently did a vlog about being a director and all that good stuff. So keep us posted on what you want to hear, who you want to see. I mean, if you know somebody,
Or if you're listening and are
it
interested
good.
in being interviewed, holler at us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brent Crocker, I'd like to talk to you.
I would. We would have to end the podcast. We would never. I mean, that'd be it. That'd be it. It'd be like, all right, and we're out.
Season finale.
And we're done.
Yep, we're done. We're done.
Channel finale and everything. So, all right. Well, this has been episode 16 of On the Back Cash. For Chris, Will, Zach, and Allie, my name is Cedric. Until next time, make sure you take care of each other.
Yes.
Go to a March and May show this weekend.
Yeah.
promote the arts. So,
Support the locals.
yep, for real, for real. All right, then.
Dut
And as always,
out.
Dut,
Yep.
Out.
out.
Yeah.